Welcome to VSB News Online for Friday, June the 5th. I'm Charles Webb. We begin our news tonight with information that the national policy under which Bermuda can develop solar power integration and liquid natural gas turbines to meet its energy needs was tabled in Parliament today by Minister of Economic Development, Dr. Grant Gibbons.
What I tabled this morning was a new electricity policy, which will actually allow, in sort of a new legislative framework, for independent power producers, as they're called, to be able to connect to the grid and do that in a way which has got regulatory oversight, so a referee, if you will, in a way. Obviously, the current utility, BELCO, will still play an important role because we have to be able to have these independent power producers connect into them and to make sure that the grid is sustained, that all of the engineering is done properly, and that there's sort of what I'll call a fair price for the production of power by these independent producers.
And that's all in there?
That's all in there, and it's a new process, and I think it should, because of the change in the last few years, more residential customers putting in sort of small home PV installations and also commercial, but we're essentially now going to be able to sort of try and pull all this together in a way which is much more efficient and which will allow somebody to referee it, and that'll be the regulatory authority which now does telecommunications. In answer to your other question, we are now, as a consequence of this policy and the legislation that will come, will be in much better position to be able to sort of now proceed. Hopefully we'll have an RFP maybe later this summer to look at the possibility of a large solar farm down at what is known as the Finger, off the airport there. That's that old unused runway. And that could be sort of something on the order of 20 megawatts or so. We'll have to look at it and the engineering and the connections to the grid. But that could be a real addition to the current generation provided by BELCO and fossil fuels and that sort of thing. And of course, we'll reduce emissions and will give us the energy will come from the sun as opposed to diesel or fuel oil. So,
does LPG fit in there somewhere?
Well, I think as you've seen in the United States and other places, there's been a real shift to using liquefied natural gas for energy production. And the reasons for that are it's cheaper, it's cleaner, and it's also more flexible in some respects. But there are upfront capital costs that are required for that. And in a small place, there are issues of the scale involved and also the cost and what effect that'll have on the price. So we don't want to march full steam ahead and find out it's more costly to do it that way than either sort of other renewables or current ways of doing it. But what we're hoping is that LNG, once we go through the viability, and I know the utility has been very actively looking at this, and we have as well, we're hoping that this will be a nice bridging technology over the next 10 years, 15 years or so, which will help to, we hope, reduce the price of electricity and provide also use for other things like fleets for buses and cars and things of that sort, because it's a fuel used in other places, and it's a lot cleaner in terms of the emissions that come out of it. So there are a lot of benefits here.
As outgoing U.S. Consul General Robert Secchi packs his bags for his new assignment in Hong Kong, he feels he leaves behind a much more enlightened Bermuda in terms of LGBT rights. A staunch advocate of such rights, his diplomatic duties here have included demonstrating a bold stance where his government's position and his personal views are concerned.
I am aware of a couple of recent polls that indicate that a majority of Bermudians still have concerns about LGBT rights and oppose same-sex marriage and that sort of thing. I'm also aware of another recent poll that indicates that maybe the numbers are closer. But I'm encouraged by the fact that in 2013, the government of Bermuda passed a law to provide for equal rights for LGBT persons. I am not aware of any particular instances of discrimination against LGBT persons, at least nothing that has come before the public eye. I like to think that here in Bermuda, while people may have their own personal individual views, that they have enough respect for others to treat them with dignity. To not discriminate against them for that reason. I am hoping that that is a sign of good things to come, for the trend to continue to be a positive one.
Would it be fair to say that your views have become liberal since you joined the Foreign Service?
You know, that's a really interesting question, Charles. You've heard that old maxim about if you're not a liberal when you're 18, you don't have a heart, and if you're not a conservative when you're 40, you don't have a brain. Have you ever heard that?
I've never heard that.
Which is pretty funny. I think that yes, when I was a young man, like most young folks, I was pretty liberal. As I became a young adult, went into middle age, I probably became a little bit more conservative, in part because of my law enforcement background. And as you know, I was also a prosecutor for some years. But I think over time, my views have become more and more liberal as I've gotten older. I don't know that I've gotten wiser, but but my views have changed. And I want to say this, I attribute that in large part to my father, who passed away 20 years ago. He was very much a social libertarian, believed very strongly in personal freedoms. And as I get older, I think about that more and more. I guess my father's views, I don't know what his views would have been on LGBT rights in general, but I'm pretty sure his overall view would have been it's not any of my business, it's their business.
A bill designed to speed up trials and increase efficiency was damned in Parliament today by opposition lawyers as a travesty of justice. They say it requires a defendant to make a preliminary statement which will void his constitutional right to remain silent. Shadow Attorney General Michael Scott led the attack.
A defense must disclosure statement setting out what you say your defenses are going to be during the course of the trial. Do I have it here? But yes, for the purposes of this media, you'll see it in black and white, both in the brief, which is it's just extraordinary. It's a complete removal of the protection. And you can't justify it by saying an accused mustn't retain the protection of saying nothing. I mean, we all know that when you go to the police station, one of the first rights given to you, you're not obliged to say anything. Anything you do, however, say will be taken down. So it's under your will and power and control. Well, it goes against that
very
rule.
essential of the British law.
Yes, centuries-old protections. When you don't understand the problems of your time well enough, then you become reactionary, tyrannical, and we must always avoid the temptation to become reactionary. Always thoughtful, based on what is on the ground, which is why the PLP believes that we should be rigorous in the causes of crime too, so that we reduce this cycle of rotating doors of defendants coming into the system, frustrating judges. You've got the point now where jurors are saying, you know, it's tiresome and burdensome for me. And then you've got victim impact statements. All of these things are putting pressures on the system. But the response mustn't be to react by taking away fundamental protections of the accused.
Just when Bermuda was on target to achieve full approval under the Solvency II directive required for financial jurisdictions by the European Union, word has come that we have only been awarded provisional equivalents, and for 10 years. Brian Darby reports on the BMA's reaction.
The Bermuda Monetary Authority has noted that Bermuda has been named in a European Commission delegated decision adopted on Friday. It will now be reviewed by the European Parliament and the Council. Within the delegated decision, the insurance regimes of Bermuda, Australia, Brazil, Canada, Mexico and the United States were recommended for provisional equivalence with Europe's Solvency II directive. Jeremy Cox, Chief Executive Officer of the authority, said this was good for Bermuda, but it is not the complete and final result they sought. The authority has an unreserved commitment to achieving full equivalence with Solvency II is essentially a timing issue. The European Commission included Bermuda on the new provisional list of countries before the deadline for Bermuda's submission on measures to be implemented for full equivalence. The European Insurance and Occupational Pension Authority had earlier in the year recommended Bermuda for equivalence, but with certain caveats.
And we'll be back with more news right after this.
The Marketplace Food Court is you and your family's one-stop shop. Start your day at the Breakfast Bar with omelets made to order and traditional Bermuda codfish breakfast. The chefs will cook lunch and dinner to your liking. Along with the salad bar, sandwich bar, sushi bar, and fruit bar, the Marketplace Food Court is your kitchen away from home. Every day is hassle-free with nutritious meals from the Marketplace Food Court. Visit us 7 days a week. Homemade cooking, quality service, all at prices you can count on.
135 years of policing in Bermuda is illustrated in a new book launched today by the Commissioner of Police, Michael De Silva.
The book commemorates the celebrations by providing a photographic journal of our history, all the way from 1879 right up to the present day. And I have to say that our history is one that I am particularly proud of being a part of. This is my 30th year with the Bermuda Police Service, which was the Bermuda Police Force when I joined it, and this is my 5th year as Commissioner. It goes without saying that as you work your way through the book from the early days till now, lots of things have changed, not least of which is our name, our organizational structure, the ranks that we have, the budgets that we're given to work with. Technology is quite obvious, the equipment and the vehicles that we drive. The other thing that stands out in the book is the names and the faces. We've had a long history, so invariably we've had a lot of people come and go, and they leave behind them extremely fond memories and indeed a rich history. And I've said this before, given the nature of our community, it's highly likely that any member of the public that picks this book up and flicks through the pages will be related to or be a friend of, or at very least know many people that are on those pages.
An overseas guest here for the commemoration is former Commissioner Jean-Jacques Lemay, who held the post for 3 years beginning in 2011. He commented on the changes in the service since his time.
This morning I had a wonderful opportunity basically to tour this facility, and what a change from the last facility basically where we know from the reports basically in the newspapers about some of the issues of transporting prisoners and having basically all the security associated with that. So it's kind of nice to see that that has been addressed, and I'm really impressed with what I've seen so far. So in the next little while, I hope to have more conversation with serving members of the service to see basically what else has been done, and so I'm very excited about that.
Well-known South African sailor and vocational speaker Neil Peterson has been energized by the award of the America's Cup to Bermuda, his adopted island. He spoke to Salter's Grammar Seniors about the event.
Oh wow, it is incredible, the technology, and unfortunately we've got two components of the technology, or fortunately we've got two components of the technology. The boats have evolved so much. These are now Formula One race cars, and the sailors are wearing bulletproof armor because if something breaks, the forces are so phenomenal, it is actually going to injure somebody severely. And there has been fatalities. There always with yacht racing, there is risk. But there's again a tremendous amount of focus on safety. And I've had the chance of watching how some of these safety programs are coming together, how they're putting docks in the chase boat. And recently, actually, an American ended up getting into trouble in the water and had a heart attack. And it was the Oracle boat that responded to come and help. Sadly, he was gone because he died in the water before anybody could get to him. But the level of safety, security is really, really increasing. So we've got the boats on the one side. Then on the other side, the way they are broadcasting and doing the television, and being able to watch this from all different vantage points, be able to see it from the air, being able to see it from the land side, to be able to see it from the water and capture and bring these things together and make it a true spectator sport. That's amazing. So I think what will happen is there's going to be a lot of young Bermudians who are going to be so inspired by what they see that they're going to say, oh my God, here's an opportunity for us. And already I'm seeing the opportunities develop. Salter's school, a school I just recently spoke to, they have taken their wood shop and their design shop, and they've already started to incorporate what's happening with boat design and how can they learn from the America's Cup. So we will see in Bermuda in time to come how these different programs are going to go into the schools and inspire the children, how the maths, how the science, how the geography, all is going to come to play in the America's Cup. And then you have the way of continuing it. You've got a WaterWise program that is introducing children in Bermuda. This is an island, and a lot of kids did not know how to swim. And WaterWise has made such a tremendous impact on getting the youth involved. And now the Sloop Foundation, and with the Spirit of Bermuda, being able to get these youth out sailing, and we've got to meet Stewart, the new captain for the youth. We've been out on the boat a few times, and again, watching that go from concept to fruition, and now watching the America's Cup go from concept to soon October is the first of the races.
And now we turn to Earl Baisden for the latest from the sports desk.
Swedish America's Cup team Artemis Racing confirmed that they will relocate its base to Morgan's Point, saying they look forward to becoming part of the local community in their new Bermudian home. Artemis team manager Ian Percy was asked about the varying conditions on the Great Sound.
I think your question's a good one because it highlights probably the biggest difference for us, say, on the last event in San Francisco, is that variety of conditions. As sailors, you really like that because it tests you on a lot of different levels. You can have the windy days like we saw last week, and then some of the light, tricky days like the last few days. So you're going to have to be really, really versatile in your skill set. Your boats are going to have to be versatile. And I think that really means one of the reasons to need to be in Bermuda training for a long period of time is that complexity of the venue. But as an event venue, as something for spectators or people to come out and craft, it's pretty hard to beat. This is a natural amphitheatre like no one's ever seen. We're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean here, but we've managed to set up bandstands to view this event from all around the Great Sound. Yeah, God did us proud there. So the first thing that attracted me to bring the team to Bermuda generally was the overwhelming welcome of the people. Just from the moment you get off the plane to the people you meet in the, I'll say bars, I shouldn't. They're just so excited about the America's Cup and about sailing and the maritime history generally. And I think that's something that we felt immediately we got here. But you're absolutely right. When you're sailing out here on the waters, when you get time to look up from these almost spaceships of boats, it's pretty hard to miss Morgan's Point as it jets out into this beautiful Great Sound. It makes you realize it's not only a great spot for an America's Cup base, but what an amazing spot to live or to come for a holiday or just to enjoy for a walk.
Alan Douglas Jr. was named the Logic Premier Division Player of the Week yesterday. The Cleveland County captain scored 131 not out against the Somerset Cricket Club. His inning included 10 sixes and 11 fours. Douglas said batting with Clay Smith helped him through his inning.
Batting with a rather experienced batsman like that, he pretty much took me right through my whole innings, right until he got out. He actually came in number 4, so he has derby for me, stabilized the innings when we was 120 for 3. He just talked me right through it, so I must congratulate him also on his fine knock of 46, I believe. That was well played, a very patient innings, like the true veteran he was, so hats off to him.
Were you stunned at the reverse sweep for 6 or Coach Kirby?
No, actually he was contemplating it the whole time. He was telling me about 3 overs before that. I'm thinking about reverse sweeping, and then he finally done it.
Meanwhile, his cousin, Chris Douglas, from Devonshire Recreation Club, was named the Logic First Division Player of the Week. Douglas scored 128 not out against Somerset Bridge. Douglas hit 16 fours and 2 sixes in his inning. Jessica Lewis announced to her T53 competitors that she is the one to watch in 2015. Lewis, competing in the Daniel Juretza Memorial in Switzerland yesterday, stormed out at the start of the T53 women's 100-meter race and blew away the field, clocking a personal best time of 16:96, with Samantha Kinghorn from Great Britain finishing in second in a time of 17:73. Lewis finished second to Kinghorn in the T53 women's 200-meter race. Kinghorn clocked a time of 30:72, with Lewis clocking 30:79. Lewis closed out her participation as she crossed the line 6th overall in the T53 women's 400-meter race, clocking a time of 101:13. Another triple header took place at Bernard Park as the Bermuda Netball Association Summer League season continued with a total of 121 goals scored last night. The Teachers got back to winning ways as they defeated BAC 31-22. Danielle Rayner scored 21 goals to lead the Teachers to victory, while Kenlyn Smith added 10 goals. Dorica Woodley-Simon scored 13 goals for BAC, while Kristen Salters scored 9 times. Family defeated Squad 2 22-13. Nikita Webb and Rose Sanders scored 11 goals each for Family, while Maya Butterfield scored 10 goals for Squad 2. They also got 2 goals from Maya Saunders. Squad 1 defeated PHC Lady Zebras 23-10. Squad 1 were led by Inchene Smith and Zakiah Lewis, who both scored 8 goals each. D'Amico Daniels scored 4 goals and Amali Smith scored 3 times. Vernica Simon scored 6 goals for PHC Lady Zebras, while Jennifer Simmons added 4 goals. Patrick Nisbet concluded competing in the Reims International Horse Jumping event in France. On the final day of competition, Nisbet competed in 3 classes. Competing in the 1.25 meter in 2 phases class, Nisbet and Encanta finished 9th. The pair clocked a clear round time of 29.69. Nisbet and Balaz were eliminated from the 1.45 meter Grand Prix with a jump-off class. And then he closed out riding Quick Caparo Z, finishing 32nd, competing in the 1.35 meter Table A class. They clocked a time of 83.90, but they had 9 penalty fault points. This sports broadcast is sponsored by WOW, who are celebrating 10 years of being a reliable alternative. I'm Earl Basden reporting for VSB Sports.
Looking at the weather for Saturday, June the 6th, there will be sunny breaks, a few showers with the risk of thunder, easing later. Winds will be south-southeasterly and moderate, varying southerly in the afternoon. We're expecting a high near 80 and a low near 71. This weather forecast is courtesy of the Bermuda Weather Service. Thank you for watching VSB News Online for Friday, June the 5th. I'm Charles Webb, wishing you a very, very pleasant weekend.